So, hello, everybody. This is your host, Chedwa Rose of the Jewish Adulting Podcast. I have with me a special guest, although I say that every time pretty much, Rabbi Alexander Seinfeld. He has a Ph.D. in Judaism and a minor in education from Towson University. He has over 10 years of classroom experience and has been an adult Jewish educator for over 20 years. He resides in Baltimore with his wife and children, where he serves as an executive director of Jewish Spiritual Literacy, which is jsli.org. He's the author of several books, including Body and Soul, The Torah Path to Health, Fitness, and a Holy Life, The Art of Amazement, Restoring the Kuzari, and the popular iPhone app, The Amazing Jewish Fact a Day Calendar. He gives weekly classes around the country via Zoom and TorahAnytime, and writes the weekly Shabbat Table Talk blog at rabbiseinfeld.blogspot.com. So thank you so much for being here with us.
It is a pleasure.
Great. So I just for the audience's background and knowledge, I spoke to Rabbi Seinfeld a few weeks ago, and I was very excited. He told me that he has his book and that he would give me a money-back guarantee if this book didn't change my life. So that night, I went on Amazon and I ordered it. I'm up to chapter 4, but I really like the way the way it's written, because the letters are big for my middle-aged eyes. It's broken down into nice chunks and sizable parts. The chapters are not too long, so I feel like I'm making progress through it. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with what I'm reading so far. And it's made me start to rethink about some things, but I'm only up to chapter 4. So that's for everyone's edification. Tonight, we're actually going to be talking about this book, Body and Soul, and what Rabbi Seinfeld, if you could explain to me about this project, like, when did you decide that this was a book you wanted to write? When did that passion or that interest or that, spark that said, this is something that needs to happen?
When I started my career in America after coming back here from yeshiva in Israel with my wife and very young children, I was doing kiruv. I was doing outreach in San Francisco, in the Bay Area. And I still do that. I still do lots of outreach there, even though I live on the East Coast. I fly there frequently and I teach long distance. And this started off really as a outreach project, because we teach that the Torah contains wisdom about everything you ever need to know. So someone asked me about 10 years ago or so, what does the Torah say about health and fitness? And I had never really explored that. So I gathered together the help of a chavrusa, some maybe 10 or 20 major sources. And it was all in English. And then it became 25 sources, and then 30. And it occurred to me that maybe I should do a version of this for Jews who already know how to read Hebrew, like a more a Torah audience, not just an outreach audience.
Right.
I kept adding, and because maybe they could benefit too. And it was just like a sheet, maybe 3 pages. And at some point, it was enough sources. I asked several of my rebbeim, should this be a sefer or a book of some sort? And they all said yes, and they gave me eitzes on how to do it. That was about 10 years ago, and it just kept. The vision was there, but to get it right took 9 years of many, probably hundreds of drafts, testing it out with focus groups. I had a chabura for a while in Baltimore, learning the material together, of men meeting weekly, getting their feedback, and then rewriting everything based on that. Because as one of my rebbeim, Rabbi Isaac Berkowitz Shlita in Yerushalayim, said to me, make sure that when you do this, you don't make it seem too hard, because if you do, no one's going to be able to do it, even though it's important. So it wasn't just a matter of being accurate. It was also a matter of being the right tone and message for people that they could really absorb this, because the goal is really, and I look around myself, look around you, and wherever you live, does every Jew you know look like they're as healthy as they can be, including yourself and your family. No, we all know we can do better, right?
Right.
We all know people who've gotten sick from or infirm from preventable causes, and it's heartbreaking. And if I could help even one Jew stay out of the hospital or out of a wheelchair for a preventable reason, then it would be probably worth it, and hopefully more than that.
Right. So, so it sounds like you did a lot of research. I have a lot of questions to ask, but the first thing I want to mention is, the proof that we're supposed to be healthy and that we're supposed to take care of our bodies. That comes from a very popular pasuk, right?
Well, yeah.
So that's one thing, which I have definitely been thinking about and playing in my mind. My question is, I really love it when Torah is ahead of science, where I know, oh, it said in the Torah not to do X, Y, and science came along and said, oh, you shouldn't do X, Y. And we knew that the whole time because we have the wisdom of Torah and everything's in the Torah. So, my question to you is, with all of the changing fads of dieting and exercise and wellness and the constantly evolving research into that realm where everyone has, I mean, if you go to the library, there's literally like shelves. Like it's like cookbooks and like diet and fitness are probably like the biggest, besides for novels, their biggest nonfiction section. What does the Torah say about diet and exercise?
If I may just, maybe just first, so I say, I want your audience to know this is not merely a diet or exercise book.
Right.
There are, there are numerous other topics that, this is a Torah book. My guidance was exactly that. What is the Torah? And I include that Torah Shabbat Peh. What do Chazal, Rishonim, Achronim say? And if they
Mm-hmm.
care about it, I put it in the Sefer. And then we added to that current medical knowledge based on scientific medicine, evidence-based medicine with 230 or so endnotes to literature, but it's guided by the Torah, by Chazal. So for example, Chazal don't talk. They talk about, for example, fermented foods. So that's in the Sefer, but they don't talk about chocolate. Unfortunately, they didn't know about chocolate. But so I couldn't put it in the Sefer, but I put it in the appendix because it's so important to me that you should know about it. I want everyone to know that's what guides us is what the Torah cares about. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
so for example, there's a whole chapter called Achila Gasa, which is usually translated as overeating or gluttonous eating. It's a major topic in the Gemara in the Halacha, and there's different opinions of what exactly is the definition of at what point have I crossed that red line and started overeating. Okay, there's three different major opinions, and they're in the chapter. But if you think about it, I'm really responding to your question, but what's beautiful about this Torah approach is not only is it healthier not to overeat, it's also holier. They go together. When you eat in a more Toradic way, more holy way, you're also happens to be you're eating in a healthier way. The Torah way of eating is first of all not to stuff yourself and not to overeat, but also to eat slowly, chew your food, eat it mindfully. And by the way, the dietitians will tell you actually that's better for your digestion also. Lo and behold.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's interesting to me because I remember one of the books that I didn't read, but I probably should have, was the Rambam's book on health and wellness. And he was a doctor, and he had a whole methodology additionally, which reminds me of this book. That concept of that if you live your life according to the Torah, then you will be making healthier choices for yourself and for your body and therefore your wellness and your family and so forth and so on. Does how does how does health and wellness, how is it addressed in the Torah, in Tanakh, with our, the various ways? Where do we see this come up in maybe midrashim or maybe with our rebbeim? The idea of health and wellness. I know one of the stories was mentioned about cleanliness, like hygiene, that was in the book.
Hygiene, sleep, sunshine, serenity, calmness. These are all topics that have to do with health and wellness. They all overlap.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the Rambam. So the Rambam has these has writings known as the medical writings,
Right.
and they are available in English. There's a wonderful translation by Fred Rosner, but those are arguably, one could be skeptical about those in the sense that, well, they're scientific and science changes, and even if you might see, oh, the Rambam was ahead of his time with certain writings, it's not as impressive to me as what he writes in Deos. Hilchos Deos is he's writing as a matter of halacha. The famous chapter, this is in the Mishnah Torah, Hilchos Deos, the fourth parak, chapter 4, is where I quote it throughout this sefer, numerous things he says there. But he's writing this as a matter of halacha in terms of how overeating, even if you eat healthy foods, is one of the worst things you can do to yourself. And he also mentions you need to exercise, and these are things that the Rambam is saying that, yeah, they're considered very, very current today, and the connection between how important sleep is. It's all there in Hilchos Deos. But to your broader point, this is your broader question about where in the Torah do you find this. What I think the big breakthrough of this sefer, what I made in my thinking about this and researching and writing it, was that most of us, I think every single one of us knows that it's common sense to try to be healthy. Nobody wants to be sick. If anybody knows a way to avoid sickness by taking the right vitamins or the right nutrition, of course anybody's going to do that with certain, limitations. But what you're really asking me is, to what extent is it a mitzvah? And this is the bombshell for your audience. If people listening get one thing out of this podcast, this is the one thing I want you to get. I hope you get more than one thing, but the very minimum, this is the most important thing. In the eyes of the Torah, health is not something that's a sideshow. It's not something you take care of and then you get along with your day. Oh, I got to take care of my health now, then I can do health is, the way I understand it and the way I framed it in chapter 1, it's really central to everything. That I ask this, as if you can ask this at your Shabbos table or ask this shul. Ask people, what's the first mitzvah in the Torah? Where do we first see a mitzvah in the Torah? Most people say Puru Revu because in the Taryag mitzvahs, that's the first one. But actually the word mitzvah does not appear there by that mitzvah. There's no word mitzvah. The actual lashon of mitzvah matters because I'll tell us that when we want to understand a concept in Torah, the first appearance of that concept in the Torah is very significant. So I think everybody listening to this, every Jew I've ever spoken to, whether they're Orthodox or less so, cares about mitzvahs. They might have different notion on mitzvahs, but everybody understands there's something about doing mitzvahs that matters to us. So we should care where the first mitzvah is. And where's the first mitzvah? Most people get this wrong. 8 out of 10 people I ask don't know. It's by Adam and Chava. Hashem gives them a tzivui. Here's what you may eat, and here's what you should not eat. And that, in other words, the self-control around food is central to the whole concept of mitzvah, and therefore central to the whole concept of being Jewish, of being a Torah Jew. This is not just my interpretation. This is Ramchal. This is the Shlach HaKadosh. Many people with beards much longer than mine have said this. I'm just bringing it together for you and helping you understand why this is so. Because right there, by that mitzvah, you may recall, is also the first appearance of something called taiva. Chava is given a taiva to eat this forbidden fruit. And that's what we face every single day. There's no other taiva like it. I mean, I have a taiva to breathe, I guess, right?
Right.
But that's automatic. My taiva, I can't control that. But my taiva to eat is something, the one taiva I have every day that I can actually control. I actually could go without eating, and might suffer. I might feel hungry, but I could still do it. I could go a whole day without eating. I've just done it recently, and I'm sure many people listening have done so as well. We'll do it for religious reasons, and we'll suffer, right? But that's the Torah is trying to tell us, controlling our taiva and letting the B'Tselem Elokim potential we have. We have this potential to be B'Tselem Elokim. The Ramchal says you have to earn it. You earn it by controlling your taiva. When you conquer that behemoth, that animalistic taiva, you achieve your potential. And that's every single day. It's not like something to take care of, it's throughout the day. You might have a taiva at 2 o'clock to eat something unhealthy. And when you choose not to, or you choose to minimize and eat less than you have a taiva for, then you are achieving that wonderful purpose that you have here, which is to become a Tselem Elokim.
Right.
It
So
happens to be that doing so, you are going to be healthier too, lo and behold. So, see, don't frame it as a control of taiva. And you were given these taivas around, and it's very difficult now because we live in a society where calories are cheap, marketing is incredibly intense. Almost everything you buy this package has unhealthy stuff in it. You have to be very thoughtful about it if you really want to do this. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you have to know that you were put here for that struggle every single day.
right. So you're making me think about a few things. One of the things you're making me think about is that one of the, I would say, a key theme in Orthodox Judaism, at the very least, is about making boundaries, about having, making a boundary for yourself so that you don't stumble, and that there's different amounts of things that you're supposed to have. We have a lot of measurements, and like you said, Hashem put us in the garden. You can eat this, you can't eat this, you can't eat this. It's very intrinsic to our, even they put a what's it, a boundary around Har Sinai so that the Jews wouldn't be overcome and get onto the mountain, and then subsequently die that from touching the mountain. But there are so many times where this concept of boundaries and making yourself aware of them is brought up in the Torah. So I think what you're saying in essence is it's it's more than a diet and exercise. This is part of our genealogy of who we are as a people, that we have boundaries and we have these rules that govern our healthy living and being able to connect to Hashem. And there's measurements that contribute to that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but there's a great danger there. The great, unbelievable success of the kashrus industry in America has actually created a huge challenge for us because, we tend to equate kosher with okay to eat. So I can
Right.
walk into our Baltimore's, big kosher grocery store and think everything is kosher, therefore everything's okay to eat. Oh, wait a second. Wait one
Mm.
second. Just because it's kosher, does that mean it's okay to eat? Are there any other criteria for okay to eat besides that it doesn't contain trafe ingredients? What if it contains something that's unhealthy? Well, the problem is that it's not as black and white. What's unhealthy for me might be more healthy for you. What's kosher trafe is, we consider, okay, depending on what sheets you're following, but we consider it's universal, basically, right?
Right.
But healthy is a little bit more of an individual call there. And so
Mhm.
it's harder to give a hexture for health, although I think smart people know that there's some red lines there. And that's where at least if I feel like if we can agree on some of those red lines, but your point is well taken. In fact, Rabbi Harvey Belovsky, it's in addition to what you said. Rabbi Harvey Belovsky, who's the emeritus Rav of the Golders Green Shul in London. He's one of 100 rabbis and rabbins I recruited to give me permission to put their name in this sefer. He said to me, and this is the quote in the sefer: "We Orthodox Jews should be at the vanguard of good health."
Right.
But listen to his reason why. He didn't say for the reason you said, because we know how to practice self-control. Though he would agree with you 100%. He would not disagree with it, but he said a different reason. He said, because we of all people in the world should appreciate the matana of the goof. What a wonderful gift that Hashem gave us, and we should want to take care of it. You hear that? That's also an Orthodox Jewish belief, that I have this precious gift. You compare it in the book to a Rolls Royce. If someone gave you a Rolls Royce and a prepaid credit card to put the best fuel in it and change the oil every month or whatever, would you put low grade fuel into it ever? Would you dare? Why would you? What if it was you knew it was the only car you'd ever own? How come you wouldn't do that to your Rolls Royce, but you would do it to your body? Why would you put less than the best grade fuel in your body?
Which is another concept in Yiddishkeit, that we spend so much of our day thanking Hashem for so much of our bodily functions, that it should be almost intrinsic and intuitive to take even more care of the body than the other religions necessarily, right?
And that's the problem. The problem is, I hate to say it, but I'm quoting the Rosh Yeshiva here in Baltimore, Feldman Shlita, who said 10 years ago, but he would say it again today: the greatest challenge facing Orthodox Jews today is not the day school tuition crisis and not the shidduch, crisis. And he named a bunch of knots. He says, because we do things by rote. You say we make these brachas. How many of us really pause and say Asher Yatzar without walking and drying our hands, doing anything for 20 seconds about from the waist? And unfortunately, many of us don't really say those brachos of kavana. We're not really appreciating the way we should be. I mean, pokeach ivrim. Did you stop to think about how your eyes work and how amazing it is to have eyes that work, and they're incredibly complex little devices in your head? And we say pokeach ivrim maybe without properly thinking about what it means to have eyesight.
Right. So it sounds like something that we could work against, or work or help us get closer to where we want to be, is probably mindfulness.
Yes.
If I had to make a guess,
Yes.
it seems that every podcast interviewee that I have, the answer to all of our problems is sleep, exercise, healthy eating, mindfulness, and those are basically the answers to everything. But I feel like if I keep getting that message, then it will eventually start to penetrate and resonate.
Well, as you said, people, well, people, I think there's two types of people out there. Okay. There's one type that are, they're motivated. They're super motivated. And they just want guidance. What should I do? There's so much conflicting information about what is healthy. I don't know. And then others who feel like I know what I should be doing, but it's hard for me every single day to be motivated.
Right.
So I'm trying to help both those types, and there's a lot of ignorance out there. For example, I myself used to think, I know it's hard to believe, but I used to actually think that orange juice was healthy to drink. Can you imagine? I used to think that. I used to think that you drink a glass of orange juice, you're drinking a healthy drink. And it was only when I started doing this research and learning that actually, in terms of what it does to your body, its effect on your metabolism and your liver, a glass of orange juice is equivalent to a glass of Coca-Cola. I'm not exaggerating. It's actually about the same. So if you think Coca-Cola is healthy, then orange juice is healthy. But don't kid yourself in thinking a glass of orange juice is actually a healthy drink. I didn't know that until now. And I've explained that to people, but I explain to them in the book, and also I tell them in person what orange juice does to your liver specifically. I don't try to lecture. I don't try to berate people. I just let me know, here's what we know about what orange juice does, sugar does to your liver in large quantities. And most people, when they hear that, say, you know what? I think I'm going to cut down on my orange juice. Information, knowledge is power.
Right. Right. Um, so, this book, it covers a lot of, I mean, like you said, but health and wellness cover such a wide range of things in our lives. If you were to give, a starting point for someone who, let's say, is struggling, what would you say would be a good place to start? Give me like one, snippet of what one can do to help get this motivation, this process, this, besides reading the book. But let's say for the listeners, that we hear something that we can know, this is actually a tidbit that we can walk away with to
Well,
start the
my
process.
guarantee that I gave you personal gift to any listener, if you get the book and go through it, read it properly and follow its directions, I guarantee it'll help you or your money back guaranteed. Okay. But if you don't want to read the book or you don't like to read, that's fine. You can get a lot of wisdom at torahhealth.org for free. But besides that, what could you do right now? I already told you one thing. Start trying to say Asher Yatzar once a day properly in the way that you know you should be saying it. Start to develop a renew and restore and rejuvenate your appreciation for your body. That would be a wonderful way to start, and because that mindfulness that it creates will affect you in a positive way. Another thing that I can recommend that's a very easy thing to do is is for, I don't like to use the word exercise because it has sort of connotations for people like going to the gym or something. I'd rather use the word movement or not being sedentary. But if you could start and make yourself a 5 minute a day commitment, for 5 minutes a day, I'm going to quote unquote exercise. That could mean walking around my living room, whatever it means to you. But it has to be it has to be a commitment, 5 minutes a day. And you set an alarm. And for those can be your 5 minutes that I'm doing my exercise. And don't think it's meaningless. It's very meaningful because you're making it keva. You're making a statement to yourself. I need to do this, and I'm going to start off in a very small way that's I can handle 5 minutes. I can find 5 minutes a day. You could be on the phone for those 5 minutes for all I care, but that you're going to do those 5 minutes a day. You'll see if that becomes your commitment now, you'll be able to build on that. You'll be able to build on that both in other kinds of movement and also in more awareness and self-awareness about what you're eating, etc.
Right. Um, you know, Something that I ask most of the people that I interview when it comes to, let's say, challenges, there are there are certain challenges that come along with being an Orthodox Jew. Um, there's a lot of challenges, Baruch Hashem, but sometimes, the whole thing around food is the amount of heavy, rich foods that we have for Yom Tovim, and the side dishes and the kugels and the meats and the it has become this, like, you know gastric, uh you know uh cuisines that you can just, and are just beyond beautiful, and yet are not good for us, and that are creating obstacles towards us really meeting our full potential. And I'm wondering, how someone could unlearn all of that. We've learned from a young age that, what's basically the holiday. They tried to kill us, we won, let's eat.
Uh, we have to use food. We have to use food in Shabbos. We have to use food for a simcha. We have to use food for Yantiv. We use food, but why? Why do Chazal want us to eat so much food? Because back to the first mitzvah in the Torah, food is not merely a test of self-control. If we do it properly, the food eaten with the proper self-control can elevate any event because I'm using the most animalistic thing, which is eating, for a higher purpose. And as you pointed out, that can get lost if I overindulge. That's really achila gasa. So it depends on where you are in your on the planning. The real battle is the person doing the shopping and the cooking. If someone is listening to this is the one who does the shopping and the cooking, you have a lot of control, a lot of power over a lot of other people. Of all those people are going to be eating what you prepare. You have a lot of responsibility, and you don't have to make them feel deprived. We put in there a whole chapter on this challenge and suggestions. For example, if you make a kugel, you could put half as much oil or sugar and probably no one will notice the difference. You don't, I'd rather you go to even less than half, but you can start. Challah, I know people who make challah, they've made them for years and years with a white flour. And if you add, say, 25% whole wheat flour, no one else is going to be bothered by it. And maybe add 50% a month later, you can start to raise the bar slightly in small baby steps for your family if you're the one cooking in many different ways without making people feel deprived. But if you're not the one preparing the food, if you're the one just consuming the food at one of these sudas or one of these simchas, you have a different challenge. And here's your challenge. You have to remind yourself, just because the food's there, there's no mitzvah to eat it. I mean, you have to eat something. But very often we think, well, the host went to all this trouble. I have to eat all this food. Well, no, you don't. You can have a little taste, and that's all you need. If you don't have to eat everything they serve you. This is they serve me a whole plate of food. I guess I have to eat the whole plate. You don't. There's no obligation to do so, and we have to really train ourselves. I don't have an easy eights other than think about it before you go in. Some people who are trying to control what they do? They eat before they arrive to the chasana. They eat before they arrive, so they're not hungry, and then you're less tempted to overeat. There's got to be strategies we play, and I've spoken to caterers about this. I said to them, how do you decide, how much, what to serve in terms of like beverages? Soda is so unhealthy. Why do you serve soda? I said, well, because that's what people want. That's what the Bala Simcha wants. I'll tell you, my daughter's chasana, there was no soda served. No soda was served at all, and only flavored seltzer. Guess how many complaints I got? Zero.
None.
Nobody complained. Not a single person. Not a teenager. Nobody. There's no soda. So
Right.
no. You have to serve. If you're in charge, you have to serve the most unhealthy things. No one said you have to.
Right.
If so it's partly unlearning or retraining ourselves to make better choices, to substitute things that are healthier, and trying to sort of unlearn so many bad habits that our generation is struggling with. So I also wondered, what about sleep? I feel like that could be its own podcast. But
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about, where we see how important sleep is. Is there a place? I know that I can only think of there's a few times in the Torah where dreams are a place of Ruach HaKodesh. And so obviously in order to get that Ruach HaKodesh, they have to be asleep. But I don't remember or know, because I'm just not learned enough, where it talks about that. Does it talk about that outright?
I'm glad you mentioned that because there's a misunderstanding about sleep. First of all, the Gemara says sleep is 1/60th of death, and that makes sleep kind of sound bad. And
Yeah.
it says in Pirkei Avos, in the sixth parak, that one of the ways to acquire Torah is to minimize sleep. So people often think that I should just stay up too late. Also I'm tired, so I'll drink extra coffee. That's not what minimized sleep means. And the Rambam says this, again, back to Hilchos Deos, he says, a matter of halacha, you need to sleep approximately a third of the day, meaning about 8 hours. Sleep is vital, says the Rambam, to your health. He makes it a matter of halacha, and medical science confirms this, that this person doesn't have enough sleep, and we all know this is true. It weakens your immune system, makes you more susceptible to disease. It reduces the ability of your body to regulate glucose. Sleep is vital to the maintenance of your brain. Your brain does repair and cleansing during sleep, and long-term memories are formed there. So anybody who cares about learning and memory should care about getting a good night's sleep. Sleep also is when your body repairs other cell damage, including muscle tissue and muscle building. Sleep gives you better performance, whatever you're doing throughout the day. Inadequate sleep increases the risk for Alzheimer's disease. It actually increases the risk for gum disease, believe it or not. People who are sleep deprived are more likely to gain weight. Someone who's trying to control their weight should definitely make sure they get enough sleep. And most of us, myself included, have experienced when you're under rested, you're more likely to be grumpy or moody. And so there's all these good reasons to get a good night's sleep. And so we have to do it. We have to make it a priority. It's not an option. And we have to that means probably we have to not only set an alarm for waking up in the morning, probably should set an alarm for going to bed. Right? Sleep. That's how important sleep is. Now, the good news is we're all as you point out, we're all very, very busy. We're probably the busiest people in the world, Orthodox Jews, right?
Right.
So we can make excuses for staying up too late. So there is a kind of a hack I can offer you.
Okay.
If you find you cannot get your needed 7 to 8 hours a night, you can somewhat cheat the system by taking what's called a power nap. A power nap is, in my understanding and my personal experience, 15, 20, maybe 30-minute nap in the late afternoon. It's actually remarkable. If you have to train your body to do this, but if you can train your body to get to, and I can teach you how to train your body to do this, but if you can train your body to do a power nap, you can actually wake up refreshed after that 20-minute power nap, and it can make up for a missing hour at night. It's really an amazing matana that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us, is the ability to take a power nap. Yeah, sometime in the afternoon. How do you train yourself to do it? It takes about 3 or 4 days. What you do is, at this exact same time for those 3 or 4 days, lay down for the nap and set an alarm for 20 minutes. For the first 2 or 3 times you do it, you might wake up feeling groggy. But what happens is you'll train your brain to sleep in a restful way. And it's amazing. After about 4 times doing it, you won't need an alarm anymore. You'll be able to lie down for 20 minutes and wake up in 20 minutes feeling refreshed. It's a really incredible thing. It does work. Up to 30 minutes. I wouldn't recommend more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to take a power nap. Could you talk to my boss at work? And
I would be happy to. Every office should provide, especially they should provide a quiet room where you can lie down and take a power nap. I think it's vital, and you'll be a better worker. You'll be more efficient. You'll be happier. It's a win-win for everybody.
right. So, we covered quite a bit and there's so much more. I mean, there's over 25 chapters in the book with, calorie guide, appendices, endnotes. I mean, you really packed it in here. And I noticed that you have Rabbi Rieti a bunch being quoted. I really like him. Love to get him on podcast. But, to me, it's like such a worthy endeavor. I think really we have to, as from Jews, go back to basics, go back to, the way we used to eat. And also, like you said, be more conscientious about our tefillos, where we are, where we what we think about our bodies and the function and the perfection. And we have to be a partner with Hashem. And to be a partner with Hashem in our wellness is to do your hishtadlus and do the right things. And we do live in a society, like you said, kosher is automatically considered healthy. I have had a lot of non-Jews when I ask them, do they know what kosher is? They go, yeah, it's healthy food, right?
Mm.
And I'm like, not really. So it is a misconception that even from Jews have, is what what I'm saying is.
Well, I'd like to just add to that is the bottom line takeaway that the shift in attitude is, I think, like this. We've been told our whole lives the body doesn't matter. What we care about is the neshama. People care about the body. That's the goyim. That's the Yavanim. That's the Greeks. We don't care about that. We care about the neshama. And that's why, in my humble opinion, we have this new crisis, which we haven't mentioned today, but we might as well mention it, called vaping. Vaping is extremely dangerous, and it's rising in rates in the yeshivas. Less so in the seminaries, but it's still a problem for girls too. Why? What if you tell a boy vaping is dangerous? You know what he's going to say to you? So what? We don't care about my whole life you've told me I shouldn't worry about my body, so why now I should care? We have to shift our focus. Attitude towards the body has to be the body and its health are precious. No, we don't care how the body looks the way the Yavanim do. That doesn't matter. What we care about is how the body feels, that it should be healthy and strong, and a strong immune system. And as Rav Victor Miller says, I quote him in the Sefer, as Chazal say, if a person doesn't take care of the basics of their health and they get sick, they have themselves to blame. You can't say, oh, it's min hashamayim. You can only say that if you've done your hishtadlus. If you haven't done your hishtadlus, chas v'shalom, you get sick, look in the mirror and say, it's your fault. Learn from your lesson, learn the lesson from the experience, and hopefully you'll start taking care of your health. Don't wait till you get sick to say, you know what, maybe I should start worrying about my health. I hope you start worrying about it now and do what you need to do it. I can't guarantee you have good health, but I can guarantee that you will be doing the right thing if you do.
Right. I do know that when my mother first became paralyzed, I was so intent on, being so grateful for just the little things that we all sort of took for granted. I really took upon myself to be very, conscientious with Asher Yatzar and recognizing the body that you could stand. And like we mentioned at the beginning, but it's something that you have to continue to nurture. It's not something that once you do it, then you're good to go, because we're fallible and we're humans, and we have to keep reiterating these ideas and concepts and bringing the point home and learning and growing, which is what I hope for all the listeners. They should definitely check out the book Body and Soul, and it's fantastic so far. I'm learning it with my chavrusa, and it should really help a lot of people start to shift their focus and do their hishtadlus and hopefully remain healthy and well.
Amen.
Is there anything that you want to add that we didn't cover, any point that you wanted to make before we end our time together?
Yes. When you are trying your best within reason to be healthy, whether that's eating like a mensch or moving your body, whatever it is that you're doing, as an Orthodox Jew, as a visibly Jewish person, you are making a Kiddush Hashem. That you have no idea the influence you have, both on people around you, other Jews, including young people who are looking up to you as a role model, but also to Jews who are less affiliated, even to non-Jews. You have a tremendous opportunity to be Mekadosh Shem Shemayim, because people see a Jew and they see a healthy Jew, a Jew who's trying to be healthy. Wow, look at how good it is to be Jewish. I don't want to say the opposite because I don't want to be negative, but you can imagine what the opposite is as well.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, that is something very important to think about. I do appreciate you giving me your time. Thank you so much. And hopefully maybe we'll bring you on for another time to to go over some of your other wisdom and knowledge. I hope that you'll join us again. Thank
I
you
hope
so
that you
much.
invite me. It's been a pleasure and honor. I hope people will listen to me on Torah anytime and be a follow my, and you'll get an update every time I put out a little nugget. There's twice a week a nugget from the book I put on there.
Right. So actually, I'm going to put all that information in the podcast notes. So anybody who would like to follow your links and take a look at your blog and your podcast and your videos can have that resource in the episode notes.
May you and I and all of everyone listening, you and your everyone you love be gesund.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.